PMI Infinity, we'll get into some details around it. It is a ChatGPT-based solution that is grounded on PMI data. What that means is there are, I think, 17,000 books, documents, articles that are PMI sanctioned within the PMBOK, the body of knowledge, that are included. So the answers you get back from PMI Infinity are answers that are PMI sanctioned, let's say. It'll give you different answers, and you may agree or disagree based on how you're practicing project management. But it's really cool. It's a really neat way to see, and something I wish, when we had the PMBOK guide for years, that this is about. The other is there's now a PMP test prep, and I think it has 175 test questions. Did anybody here? How many people have PMPs already? Wow, okay, almost everybody. Okay, so for those who are going for imagine if we had this when we were studying. I remember staying up at a diner, a 24-hour diner, drinking coffee, going through Rita Mulcahy flashcards, trying to learn, every bit of the process. Imagine if we had this. It's really great because what it allows you to do is you go through and you can ask questions of the question. Be like, hey, you know what? The building's on fire. Maybe we don't need to hold a meeting first. Well, okay, it says we have to hold a meeting first because communication is important. Right, so those pieces are included in it. All right, so let's start. I want to get a feel, and I hope this works, but I want to get a feel of who we have both on the line and in the room. So let's see if you can pull up your phone and scan this. We're going to do a quick poll on Menti. All right, seeing responses start to come in. Automation, future, knowledge, efficiency, details, automated, scary, okay, yeah, clever, ease, new, accessible. All right, I don't see end of world up there.
They're still typing.
So that's a pretty good chatbots in there. That's a pretty good view of, I think, from project management professionals, how we're looking at AI. It's interesting though, it depends on where you go and who you speak with. Again, I think there can be in this field a lot of fear or a lot of excitement, and it really depends on how interested you are to engage, because the people who are excited are finding ways to use this right away in ways that they wouldn't have been able to before. Okay, so let's go on. Which industry do you currently work in? Just get a quick overview. You can yell them out in the room as we're going to it. Wow, okay. So that is a really good cross section. Yeah, wow. That's amazing, because there's so many different solutions within this space that AI is being applied right now that is really phenomenal. So that's once we go through the next one, I want to get a little more detail on what folks are doing in there. And so we'll just take answers in the room or in the chat. But what AI tools are you currently using? What are you actually jumping into today? Yes, please.
We've been forced to use Copilot. Never let us use anything else.
All right, so you're using Copilot from Microsoft 365. Okay. ChatGPT. How many people are using ChatGPT?
At work,
At work.
in the cloud?
Very good question, yeah. So at work, how many people are using ChatGPT? Of those, how many have pro license versions? Huh?
Is anyone using on-prem version of ChatGPT, which is 2,000 a year per person?
Is anyone using the Teams version of ChatGPT, which is $30 a month, so $360?
It will be.
And how many people are using Copilot, Microsoft Copilot? Okay.
Well, they work at the
And
same
any-
place, so,
Okay.
but in the chat, we've got some chat GPTs, one, Copilot, and one name I did, Dally?
Okay, Dolly, so it's ChatGPT, it's open.
Okay.
So it's ChatGPT at this point integrated.
So we're just transitioning to Google call center.
Yep.
AI.
Really? Okay. So we also have Google Call Center, very cool. And then one other quick question on Copilot, is anyone using custom Copilots, Copilot Studio or any of those pieces? Okay. All right. So that's a good background in it. Let's now what we're gonna jump in on, and I'm gonna jump ahead to this piece of it for the hands-on component. Is we have a fictional candle company called Just the Wax, and what Just the Wax does is they make traditional candles. They smell nice, very flowery. But what they're doing is they're shifting, as most companies are, to environmentally friendly versions. So soy wax, and in this case, there's a project potentially to have candles that are electric, solar powered candles in order to save the environment. So we're doing that as a project, and the thing we go through is each phase of it. We're gonna use AI in different components of tools, again, that we have today that have unlocked some of those capabilities, including Copilot, including ChatGPT, including some of the others that are available. Does anybody here use Miro and Miro boards? Okay, great. So built into Miro, and this is a new capability in the last few weeks, is the ability to go through and actually use AI for generation. And so when you're in there now, you can see there's a new little piece that has this dangling element. And if you go, you can actually put in certain things that you want to have created. Now we're going through and we're about to start a project. And what we want to do is see whether or not we should proceed. This is part of the initiation phase. What we're going to do is now go into Miro and just begin and start looking at, all right, we want to know if electronic candles are less, or what the downsides are. Reasons why we might not use electronic candles in there. So here we're going to go through and we're just going to fix that. And what Miro will do in this case is for us create a number of sticky notes. And we know the way you organize, where you can go through it.
Yeah.
This will build that out directly in Miro. So now we've got that in a couple of seconds. Now we can do this over and over. We can do it for different categories. And so now you can see that they're good because they're safe to use. They provide this alternative. We can ask the same thing on why we wouldn't want to use them, and in a way the pros and cons directly in the Miro. Now with this, you can do this in any of the different templates, so it doesn't have to be just in this one. But that's a pretty great way to get things started, particularly if you're in a room and you're leading a workshop or you're leading a project meeting and you aren't coming up with ideas. You can have this as Kindle to get you started. Now that's one of the pieces. But what you can also do is go through and create a mind map. So I'm going to create this one right here. And in that one, I'm going to go through, let's see, what's our, we're going to go and ask it for a new app. Okay, so to come up with a new app for electronic candle. To do that, we need to go through here. It's actually going to overlay it over the type something. That's fine. I'm going to then ask it here to expand with ideas. And when I do that, what Miro will do then is create ideas automatically for my app for electric candles. So a customizable electronic candle app that allows users to choose from a variety of scents and colors and virtual candles. Meditation app that allows use of electric candles to create calming atmosphere, guided meditations. An app that includes a library of ambient sounds to play alongside of electronic candles, such as rain or ocean waves. So it's coming up with some pretty good starter ideas. Now, again, you can use this in your different project meetings and as you're coming through any sort of brainstorming. I mean, it doesn't have to be a product detail. In this case, our company is coming up with new products and we want ideas on how to get that out. So this allows you to start it and you can build out a multi-layer mind map or flow off of it as you wish with that detail directly built in. So, I mean, that's pretty cool. I've been using mind maps for years and I've loved it. But the idea of having, again, a starter like this where you can just go bam, or you're running into a meeting and, and you're like, okay, wait, shoot, I need a couple ideas. What do we got? Bam, and then you start it off that way. The next one we're gonna jump in. So now we know based on this, it's a good idea. Let's get started with this project. We're gonna kick it off, but we need to build out our project charter. So what do we do next? So we've gone through, we've had the discussions, we've realized the business value. There's other pieces on that as well. We're going to go into Microsoft Word, and this one is using Microsoft Copilot or Microsoft 365. I'm going to create a blank document, and in that document, I'm going to reference a file. Now, one of the things about Microsoft, again, they've got so many Copilots, and the licensing is a bit tricky. This is specifically for the 365. They have different versions of the Copilot at this point, Copilot Pro, the Copilot, which is Bing Enterprise Chat or Bing Chat that has been expanded out. But for the one that's for Microsoft 365, what we can do is then go in and reference a file. And if I want to say, okay, project charter. So I'm going to reference a project charter template. There we go. So we're going to take that as the example, as our core template. And most organizations, you're going to have your own documents, your own formats. What this will allow you to do is to use that and implement on there. And from there, I'm just going to say, hey, I want to create my candle wax chart. So obviously, this is all hypothetical. You're going to have your own data, your own information. But as I go through and do that, it's going to start building out my Word document. So this is now going to write for me a project charter end to end using details. Now, if I told it all the financials, if I told it each of the specifications, it can reference that information. Now, one of the things that's important about all this as we go, we look at the different technologies. This is retrieval augmented generation. It's coming from your own data. It's indexing off of your own data. It is secured off of your own data. Not everything is, and I want to put that distinction because there are online tools, and even most organizations would not say to use ChatGPT, the personal version, without having the security pieces in place. Like ChatGPT Teams has security. The personal version does not claim to or not to drain on your data. So what it just did here was it created a project charter. Now it looks okay. It's not bad. It's got everything I need on it, but let's format it and make it look a little better. So we'll see if this makes a difference. But what it should do, and again, if you've got PowerPoint templates and Word templates, Excel documents, could be project status reports, you will be able to replicate. Now, this is again just starting, so it's not perfect. It's not 100%, But again, without me doing anything, without me giving it any other information, it's come up with everything, including the financial table for our project. That's pretty good. And again, now, when we write contracts, it would normally take us hours to do this, to have this template and plug in, here's our client information, here's the project information, here's the details, and then populate it in 20 seconds. And then for me to take 10 minutes to update it. I mean, it's saving me hours just in our project charters or contracts, statements of work as we're going through this case. Yes.
When PMI released their automation last week, I put out a comment saying that this is going to create the buzzword compliant project interest, people that are interested in project management without necessarily knowing project management. And if their managers or their customers don't know any better, good for them, I guess. You know, a lot of us here have built many years in the field and the profession of project management, and to see this come along kind of rubs me the wrong way, but I'm going to use it though.
No, that's fair. That's fair. What do other folks think so far? Yeah.
I have a question with AI, it's how far it's gone. Has it been able to produce like relational databases that are useful with forms and for books?
So we do not have available anything that makes a relational database. Now, what we can do, even in ChatGPT, we use it for sample data or test data, and it will export into Excel in that case. So for instance, if I want to make, I did a test actually of our data set, comes out and it's 1,000 rows. ChatGPT can create that, the models can create it. We can do that in off Microsoft Azure as well. Yes.
What relational DB are you talking about?
I don't just, in general, I just,
Okay.
state of technology.
Because I'm using it on a export, an enterprise warehouse. And so it's creating, I've got the schemas developed, and the fact that it just writes its own, what am I trying to say here? The compound joint, those queries, it's writing it really easy, and it's pulling the data that I need for my reports. And that's using the Copilot.
And yeah, go.
We have a question in the chat. How different was the output from the input?
So how different was the output from the input in terms of the format of the chart?
The content, it didn't change anything that you,
No, well, so no, it didn't change anything. In fact, in this particular case, I didn't give it this information. It made up the information on its own. Now, if I were able to reference it through our financials, for instance, or what in a perfect case for this would be a very small form that has the details that I want populated in, it would reference that and then go through. Now, as far as the data question, there are capabilities. There's a Copilot for Microsoft Fabric that will write your DAX expressions, your notebooks, that will actually generate Power BI reports for you as well. And that, again, that was just released in general availability, I think 2 weeks ago. So it's brand new, and it allows you to start building out your data model end to end. So you have a secure organizational wide AI data model that covers everything, all of, and from a security perspective, it covers your security from end to end, whether you're pulling the data from AWS, Oracle, Azure, or wherever you're pulling. So there are capabilities within there. Now, in that case, again, it's not creating the relational database, but it is accessing all of the different systems and enabling those connections.
I just wanted to comment about, I totally respect the idea that, this twist of technology and abilities is going to transform project management, and kind of, maybe we're going to be viewed as dinosaurs, from our experience and, techniques. But the reality is there's so many industries out there, no idea what proper project management looks like, never invested in it. And we're going to be able to touch them all with brand new solutions that they could never have imagined.
Were you at the Expedient dinner last week?
I'm sorry?
Were you at the Expedient dinner last week?
No, sir, I was not.
Okay.
But I work in fields like
They were saying the
nonprofits.
same thing. That's why I thought, oh, yeah.
I work in fields in the typical nonprofits or academia. The response, when I talked about AI is something, a tool we have to leverage in academia. They said, can't you just buy more blue books? Because we're going backwards instead of going forward.
You know, it's a great point. That there's a couple of things on it. One is the human in the loop becomes more important and qualified experts in, and that includes project management. We're looking at, in healthcare, there's a number of medical capabilities that will, for instance, there's an offering that will transcribe the doctor's visit, put in all the clinical notes, put down the prescriptions, all the lab tests, everything else. That is so doctor said, we started a neurologist and said that for every 30-minute visit, it's 45 minutes in clinical notes. So let's say this saves him half an hour in that space. But you still need the best doctor to be able to go through. You can't have a non-doctor. Like I can't then just go and be, oh, this looks good. This prescription looks right. Same thing with project management, same thing with law, same thing with engineering. You need the experts to be able to go in. And actually software development is a great one because software development, there's Visual Studio Code and a GitHub Copilot where it will write code for you and it's amazing, right? I mean, this is like, it'll generate the programs for you from scratch. But in those cases, it's really important you've got a good developer to make sure you don't propagate bad code out 1,000 times. It's a lot tougher to get back. So there's downfalls to all of it for sure. But again, I mean, there's so many positives at this point is, if we're able to put in proper governance, security guardrails around it to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to do. Who here uses Figma? One person uses Figma. Okay. All right. What do you use Figma for?
I was in web development, so our designers would use Figma to design sites, maps.
Awesome. Okay. So Figma is a design tool, and it's got some really neat capabilities in here. But I'm going to go through and you see here again, it looks similar to Mirrorboard as we started out on it. I'm going to put in, I just once, and it gives me a couple options. Brainstorm how to sell the new electric candle, right? So we've got the candle, we've got the details, we've started on the app for it, we've got some ambient music and other pieces. This is now creating marketing strategies, selling strategies. It has a target audience for us on who we're reaching out to. Like maybe I'm not the right person to sell electric candles to. I don't know. But it's building out all of that information on the fly. So we're able to go through and create a strategy, or at least a brainstorming session for that strategy. Again, where from scratch, we've put in this information, and now we can take that and run with it, right? So we're at a workshop, and normally you have to, again, spend days of doing that prep for the workshop, get it ready so that you're going through with this information and able to have it ready for the client, for your organization. Here, you can, in a couple of minutes, get it really nicely to where you want it. And this is as a starting point. Now, the next thing with Figma, and I gotta tell you, it's got way more in here than we're going to be able to jump into today. But we're going to go through just a couple more pieces on this one. So in this case, not all of our candles are great. We get returns sometimes. They don't always work. Sometimes it's the wrong smell. So here, what I want to do is create a process flow, a flow chart around how I would go through in terms of customers returning the candle, right? So either online or in the store. And so what Figma just did was create a process flow for me, end to end, on what the customer should do, whether we should accept it, whether they're happy, things like that, all within here. And I can add in directly in Figma, I can add in details and say, yes, I want to add in another piece for a customer survey at the end, or there should be an escalate to manager because, we don't return candles unless a manager is spoken to first. All of that can be done directly in the tool. It just built out the starting point for me. But now I've got, all the way up to provide return label and instructions, customer ships the return. It just built this off of, please come up with a process. Can anybody think of ways that they would use that in their own organization now?
Honestly, I can think of a bunch of ways to use it. I think one of the main ways is just for figuring out, or even hypothetically thinking about the thought process of a client buying, or different decisions of that nature could be very interesting.
So thought process for buying a product and the decision tree around that. Yeah.
There's somebody else.
Okay.
I'm just too excited about this.
Yeah, please.
So I'm in marketing, so we're doing like these different types of campaigns that we're working on. They're called the Big C campaigns, which I'm trying to change the name because it's dumb. But basically, like they're like our main campaigns for the year, so they have a lot of components, and we're trying to do all these different processes. So it would be interesting to see like the flow chart of what AI would think would the process be versus what we're actually doing, and how it could maybe help us with any improvements.
Absolutely. So there's a couple that we're not going to look at today, but there are AI process tools. UiPath is starting to build those into them. Microsoft, we're talking Microsoft a lot, but they're the ones that they're tying into AI, obviously. But they have a process flow tool that actually will allow you to ingest your raw process, and it will propose changes or even automations, and will build automations and flows on the process.
So we use Monday.com now.
Okay,
Like
yeah.
I have a huge project plan and everything's automated, but yeah, it would be interesting to like see what else it could do, because that was me thinking of how to make it happen. So
Absolutely, and that's not for the project side of it, that's really the
Yeah.
process. So if you have a product, if your initiative is to streamline the process,
Yeah.
you can pull that in. Absolutely. Yeah, please.
I guess with AI, like you could give an ask it to be the ISO 9000 compliant documents that define this process. You want it to.
Yes, but again, in this case, I would be really careful
Yeah.
that it is an ISO 9000, because otherwise, you see on there was another article in the paper just yesterday about a lawyer who was reprimanded and for putting in fake case law that came out of it. It's not perfect. It does loosen. Again, it just made this up. It doesn't know that it's real or fake once it's done, right? So for things like that, at this point, I would be careful on doing. Maybe it can walk you through the process of it, right? These are the steps, these are the process, this is how long certification takes, things like that. But to do the documentation, at this point, I would be careful.
We have one in the chat to develop employee training and verify effectiveness.
Employee training and effectiveness that's a great one. In fact, Matt and I were talking about this morning. So for one thing, there is an LMS that PMI has that is, so for learning at PMI, I think it is.
Yeah.
PMI.com.
If you just go to pmi.org and you go to Career Navigator, there's like a bunch of stuff there.
Yeah, so there's some really cool things you can do with it that way. Training is amazing. And so one is obviously personalized training. And in order to build that out, we talked a bit about custom copilots, or Copilot Studio. What that allows for an organization to do is ground it with your own training materials, your own documentation, all of your, whether it's service desk, whether it's marketing materials, whatever. And you can actually train your own model directly. You're not training, you're grounding. You're not trained. The model is, in this case, GPT-4 or Turbo, whatever you happen to be using. But you can say, okay, look at everything that we have in our space and make it available for our chatbots or for training purposes and other things.
It was Copilot, please.
Copilot Studio. So Studio allows you to go through, and now this isn't created, it's creating your own copilots, your own personalized copilots for your organization. Major companies have been doing. In fact, one of the slides that I had up that before the PowerPoint blew up was just today, literally an hour before I came here. Heinz just announced that an hour before this had hit the news, that they are using Copilot Studio and creating their own internal employee-facing Copilot. So this was actually one of the big things that was lauded by leadership from there and from Microsoft and other companies. So there's a lot of potential for this. We're gonna go through a couple other ones here real quick.
Dan, if you don't mind, just to clarify some of the terminology, I have an awareness of how these large language models are sort of trained. You feed them a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
the terminology of personalization and grounding is not something I'm completely familiar with, so maybe you could just expand on that. Be great.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so the way the structure works with most of the tools that you'll be using here is that it's training on those large language models, which are pulling from trillions of bits of data, all the different sources that have been fed into it over time and improved. And by the way, we don't have time to get it, but small language models are becoming really effective and targeted as well at this point. But what we're doing here is grounding it, which means you're essentially referencing your data and then sending back just the information that's needed to access that large language model. So it's a retrieval augmented generation is essentially taking an index, and it could be your for a law firm, it's their case law, any motions and briefs and things like that. It could be medical records, right? This can be scan X-rays and CAT scans and MRIs and things like that. That data that sits within your space belongs to your organization. Now, when you use RAG in this case, it's not sending that back for training. It's not leaving your environment. It's only referencing that language model to figure out how to deal with the question. So it's sending tokens in this case to be able to come up with a most likely scenario, but it doesn't get your information. That stays localized in your platform. And Matt, that's a key part, because again, not everything isn't using your data, right?
Right.
And this is, when we look at the major companies, Google from an enterprise perspective will be, but when you use Google just going into Google Bard, it may or may not be. I have not seen their terms and conditions on it. Microsoft, if you go to Bing, regular Bing chat, they don't make any claims about your data, but if it's on enterprise chat or if it's on Copilot, they say it's secure and it does not. So it's a good point. All right, so the next piece, I'm just looking at the time we've got, I think we're still good. We're going to go through, and I'm still in Figma here. I'm going to go through and prompt it. Just say, make a project plan for a new electric candle product. Let's see what it does on this. Okay, so what this is doing is coming up with details on what we should do. Now, in here it's framing it. It's coming up with marketing, launch, production, manufacturing, research and development. It's just a framework. There's not a ton of information in this one, but it's enough, again, to get us started. But what I'm going to do next is go in and ask it for a timeline. So we want an actual project plan. And if I go back into Figma, I'm just saying a timeline for new candle product, color coded by teams, design, manufacturing, marketing. It's perusing the possibilities. So this just created a high level, it's a very high level Gantt view of a project plan going into, and if you can see, it's broken it down by each of the teams that I've asked it to do. So design, manufacturing, marketing, sales. It's put in high level. These are summary level tasks. If we're using Microsoft Project, these are summary level tasks of the information going forward, saying conceptualization, prototyping, design, source materials, and so forth. But that's a pretty good, I've never produced candles before. That's a pretty good starting point for us to get this out the door. Now, there's a number of companies that are coming up with capabilities that will do this larger. Right now, everyone we've demoed has a limit, more or less a timeout limit. This is actually something that we're working on as well. But then we'll retrieve maybe 30 to 50 tasks in the time that it has the generated plan. Now that may be enough or may not be enough. Now, in this case, again, that's going to give us a good starting point. If we're workshopping, we can build that plan off of it. We'll have, our best project manager in putting the details underneath each one of those. And okay, we've got the summary level already in place to start. So this is allowing now in the very near future. Again, we haven't seen any tools that do it yet, but in the very near future, you'll be able to make those modifications directly through the chat or through automations to update that project, right? So the next phase would be now it's giving me the starting point. It would then be able to go through and make adjustments and say, okay, I need to crash the schedule. We've got a competitor who's launching a month early. We need to do it as well. Let's put the resources on it and then ask, in this case, the AI, the GPT, to create that update to the plan for us. Or more interesting, I think, is even putting it into your overall portfolio and your portfolio optimization. Because then you can look at, we've got 50 projects. This is where we think they are. This is what we think the timing is. If you have the data and if you have it lined up within your organization, and again, this is where you need the best project program portfolio managers, because the AI will help organize all that, but you really need them to drive it and drive the value creation in this way. Any thoughts on this piece? All right, so I'm actually going to jump. I will show one other quick one because this was pretty cool over in ChatGPT. So when I was over, actually two more quick ones. I think we were from time. So in the there. Okay. Good. So in the ChatGPT now has the Pro version and it has the Teams version. And again, I think everyone here has used ChatGPT at this point. What's cool now is, again, it's got millions of, I think they said 3 million GPTs at launch, which seems crazy, but these are available and you can also create your own personalized here. So you can ground your own information. So for instance, when I went in, I'll give a quick look on the, I want to go through and look at the, that PMI study that we had, right? I can load this into here, and this is essentially the equivalent of grounding, but it's on a small scale, in this case, and I can ask questions about the results of the PMI study. So 114 pages, it will go through and create answers. In fact, we'll do that real quick just to ask for the overview. And so while it's doing that, within the GPT spaces that are available, there's some really cool stuff. Is there anybody here who's a hiker or a runner? So All Trails is in there, and you can use GPT on All Trails, which is pretty neat. By the way, I don't know if you saw it. Okay, so just give a quick recap. It read the PDF for me. Now, in this, again, if you don't have time to go through and you just want the top points, what does it mean for my profession? You can go through and get that information. Now, the other one on here real quick is that when we go into Explore GPTs, I'm going to use Canva. Canva is another very good design tool. And the results on this one are, it's surprised. I was surprised because there's a bit of a, well, and we'll see if it does it as well. But there's a bit of a difficulty in coming up with text, as you probably know, if you've been using Dolly or Midjourney or any of the others, it can't really do that for building out materials. When you use ChatGPT and Canva, it will. It actually goes through and will create it for you and then allow you to use the Canva design template in order to go through and use that.
Although it is quite amusing to see what it generates that it thinks is text. It's kind of funny.
It is. And okay, so introducing Just the Wax. So the company name is Just the Wax, which we had a couple of intro things on. So Just the Wax electric candle. And the formatting is not perfect for sure, but it's created. Just the Wax is perfect for those who want cozy atmosphere without worry, open flames with a range of scent. I mean, again, all I put in was electric candle, create a flyer, and it built this for me. Now, the thing that I'm excited about on this specifically are things that take me forever. Things like infographics or timelines, not project timelines, but like history of AI timelines or technology in Pittsburgh timelines. where I want that visualized, and it takes forever. This type of tool can then put it in very quickly. So it's a great start. All right, I'm gonna try one other quick thing, and it's probably gonna break also, but we'll make it a try. There's a 80% chance on this
You drive here like that?
one. I did. Okay, can you see, you can see this screen, right?
Mhm.
Okay, let's see if that. By the way, I've obviously never done this before in front of an audience, so let's see.
There was a quick YouTube where there was a kid with one of those on behind his wheel of a Tesla.
Yeah.
No way.
Way. Because I saw his fingers doing the same thing that Dan's doing.
So it's amazing. Let me stop sharing on this and then reshare it real quick. So I'll talk through it, and then because I think by this time in June, everybody will be wearing these into your team meetings. Let's see here real quick. I'm gonna try and see if I can get it on here.
That's a new volunteer gift.
Yeah. Yeah, not for that. Your ticket is not gonna get you that.
Yeah.
Airplane fly.
They want you to accept
You
it
need to accept your mirror.
on the phone.
Thank you.
You have it,
That went away now.
yeah. There you go. There it is. There you go.
Okay.
Technology.
There you go.
So can you see my?
Now it's working.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really weird.
Okay. It's cold enough.
Oh my God.
So for you, so here I am in Microsoft Teams. I'm in the conference room with everybody. You can now actually see everybody. I'm going to try not to swing my head so much. Hey, for those who are on the call, this is what everybody looks like. So in here, I'm going to show you a couple of quick things. So I've got my Microsoft Teams, which is now built on with AI on Microsoft Copilot. One of the cool features on here that actually I can't show from the vision though, is I actually have all of my meetings recorded, and they do the transcription and they write the meeting notes and take the meeting actions by topic. They organize it by topic. Actually, I can show you that just real quick in a second. But right now, I have access to everything within here. I can go through, and if I want to get into that, well, again, there's a chance that some of these will work. But over here, if I want to get into my project financials and have that available for me, I can get into that directly while I'm in the meeting talking. So again, if you want to go in and you don't know the answer and you're going to talk to your boss, put one of these on. Just make sure you have all the information. So I can also go through and say to Copilot. You know what? Actually, I'm looking at it, and the problem is, and I just realized that I didn't connect to the Pittsburgh Technology Council with this. So I don't have internet at the moment, but I can still show you the rest of it, which is from here, I can get into any of my work pieces. So I can be working on that project charter over here. I can be working on a PowerPoint presentation, all at the same time. Yeah, and again, it's not going to work without the, oh, let's see if that one opens. Okay. There you go. So
I'm just asking about the cord. Is that the power supply in your pocket?
This is the power supply.
Okay.
So this is the power supply. Now, this thing is not light. It's like wearing a computer on your face. And Matt brought these for me because. Because realistically, I mean, look, it's super cool. It's amazing that you can do this, that you can bring this a lot around with you. In fact, if I turn it like this, I'm in a whole nother world. It's three-dimensional and completely cut off. Now, I did wear this on the plane here to Pittsburgh, and people thought I was an alien. But what it does is with the confluence of AI and augmented reality in this case, allows for a whole nother way and a whole nother experience of managing projects. Now, imagine we're using Figma and Canva and those other pieces, but like this, it becomes, who here's seen Minority Report?
Yes.
Yeah, it becomes like that, where you're going through, don't drive with it. But the capabilities are amazing because I can access my AI. I can access my project data directly in this, wherever I am, assuming I have internet, and be able to interact with it in a whole different way. And that, to me, I mean, it's amazing.
Manufacturer model cost.
Oh, okay. So this is the Apple Vision Pro. It just came out 4 days ago for public purchase. The starting cost is $3,500. So you have to really want to use it and have a business purpose to sign on for the Apple Vision Pro. We're testing it. We're testing it out for project management purposes and for AI, but also things for for healthcare. For folks who aren't able to travel, or if you're doing training and you want to see facilities. There's a lot of really cool use cases in this space that we're experimenting. And again, we've only had it for 3 days. So
I saw something on some TV news show years ago about people with just regular glasses and they could see stuff in their glasses. And so I'm thinking that the technology, I would imagine over time, would just get smaller and smaller. And
absolutely.
just like everything else, just like a phone, all this technology is.
Well, yeah, so exactly. There was Google Glass, there was Microsoft HoloLens, there was a Meta one, which really was mostly just a camera. And there's also the Meta, the Oculus and Oculus Rift, and those versions as well. But you're absolutely right. I mean, eventually this would be sunglasses, contact lenses, other things. This is a first generation of what Apple is calling spatial computing, and it is unlike anything I've seen. Right? It's not an experience pinching, moving, as you do it. And you also still need to figure out other pieces and other input devices. But to your point, this is the very first iteration. Where it's going to go from here is I think amazing. And we're almost at time. We've got a couple more minutes. Want to show one other quick thing. Let me see if I can get my.
See if the audio works on this. Yep. So Deb was kind enough to record as an avatar on HeyGen. And this was done just here a few minutes ago, right as we were starting. And we'll see if I can get the audio.
That's not what I said.
That's what you say now.
What the?
Jump out.
I saw it.
I mean, it's
Oh, that's really
You can't tell.
The writers, all the AI stuff they're taking.
Let me see if I, so Deb,
We're making it up.
so it took everything she just did in a 2-minute video and created one that says she really loves the electric candles. She wants to buy the electric candles. They're the most amazing breakthrough product she's ever seen.
With 2 minutes of audio, I was able to sample.
2 minutes of audio.
2 minutes?
Now, what's even cooler is, wait, okay, by the way, this is scary, and we won't use this for Avatar St. Peter.
I'm sure there won't be any negative.
So Deb, quick question. Do you speak French?
No.
You do now. But again, I don't know if, yeah.
She had the same accent in
Coming
French.
in over there.
Let me turn the mic off on this one.
Is it? That's on there. We did turn off the audio on this before. Oh,
Let's try now.
that's right.
Nope. So we're about to break in a minute, but I'll get this working so the folks in the room, and if you want to stay online, you can hear it as well. But not only has Deb learned French today, but she also speaks fluent Japanese. So this is called HeyGen, HEYGEN. And when we talked about training, the applications of this is you put in avatars into the system, and then you can create training content off of all of your information in a matter of
minutes. So you can literally record thousands of hours of training in an hour, right? As opposed to having to go through and have someone sit in front and go and train on each of those pieces.
And it's her voice for
It's her voice and it's her hand motions. Everything.
This actually blows my mind more than any.
This actually scares me, because someone could show someone on TV, hey, you said this. We got the video.
It's all rendering.
It's already happened. That's already
Yeah.
happened.
There's so many lawsuits out there right now.
One of the things, all printers that print stuff have like a certain watermark that you can see. Is there gonna be watermark type things embedded in there?
Okay, so that's
Not for the
really
bad
good.
actors.
It's really, so when we're talking about security, and we don't have time to jump into that today. There's a couple things. One is the certificates in the data to be able to track and say who the owner of it is and whether it's real and things like that. We don't have that on most of, on most YouTube videos. If it becomes deepfake, there's not, off of that. But if for news sources, for instance, I was talking to the Associated Press, but there's opportunity. In fact, this is something we're already working on is having certificates, but also using blockchain to be able to track chain of custody of digital content and likenesses and things like that.
Yeah.
So security does become a huge piece of it. So
Yeah, it's asking because like printers, like everyone's printer, if the FBI analyzes what you print out of it, they can tell exactly which printer it came from.
But if a bad actor creates some kind of software, they're not gonna put any kind of code in there to track it.
right, exactly. But in that, this is where the very start of it, we need to have that. So, and again, even the HoloLens, the Apple Vision Pro does a retinal scan as it's going through to confirm that it's me. And that's the security that it's using on here. It's not using Face ID anymore, which is also fairly complex. But and again, this is another component of AI that it's using to do a scan to authenticate to say that, yes, this is actually me creating the content. Now, if you create a certificate along with that goes along with the content, there are ways. This is all brand new, and to your point, there are a lot of things that need to be taken into consideration and make sure that safety of personal information, company data, organizational data is paramount as you go. And just one quick thing as we're wrapping is, we start with a zero trust policy on all of this, and then as we're able to unlock and confirm is when we open up the capabilities. Yes.
When you report to Deb originally as the starting point, does she have to read a certain passage to get her tone reflection of that?
Well, in the case with HeyGen, it's interesting you asked that. No, in any script that they're provided can work.
Can we see the original?
Yeah.
Wow. The cutting room floor.
Yeah.
Microsoft announced recently that they are working on a watermark type of thing for their softwares already. Because you see a lot of videos out there that look completely real, but they're not.
Yeah.
And they're not nice ones either. Often political, to, yeah, so
Yeah, that's already started.
that's why you need one, you need know.
We have it
They clean our. Oh, yeah, see the vision.
I'll ask to pull it up because it's from a different spot, but I'll pull it up and I'll put it on screen. It looks exactly the same. I mean, it really is, yeah.
And nobody would have known except me and you that that is not what I said.
Yeah.
That's a good, well, unfortunately we couldn't hear, but that's a good point. We should have actually read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did everyone know that she speaks fluent Japanese? So we'll pull that up. We are at time. I'll be around for any questions if you ask. There's also.